International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM.
Good evening and welcome to Today on One. I'm Isai Sipunga. In the news tonight, Windhoek Rural Constituency Councillor reaches out to evicted farmers. Procurement of crucial COVID-19 medication underway. Katatura Hospital receives 100 beds from the private sector. And Roundup, Business on One, Comments Corner, Sports and Weather. Now for the news in detail. Help is on the way for the family who recently found themselves stranded after being evicted from a farm near Dordabis. This was announced by Windhoek Rural Constituency Councillor Pete Adams. Councillor of the Windhoek Rural Constituency, Pete Adams, says that he approached various organizations, including private companies, to help move the evictees to a suitable place in Dordabis until a permanent area is allocated by the government.
We will build a structure for those people, at least to move from that side up to Dordabis. But now we are setting of this problem. And then I approached the Lodestone mine. They are really willing to assist us. Even ShopRite, they said, what I said I must put in writing. That I did. And they did confirm also, possibly within the next days, they might be able to assist these people. Because they are a 2-month-old baby. And it's, if you look at the weather conditions, extreme. It's really extreme. It's 12 adults that are there, with a lot of kids that are there. The area that they are sitting also, it's a bit unsafe.
Adam said there were plans from the government to move the evictees to Nawasport, a farm just outside Windhoek, but he needed assurance in written form to avoid disappointment.
The governor intervened in this matter, and they wanted us to move these people to Nawasport. But when we approached the people, they said they must at least get a written assurance. Because since it's a temporal arrangement that has been made, there must be something that will tell us going forward what will happen to them. But this fight is an ongoing fight that we are not going to leave here. I have been in consultation with the Command Traditional Authority because they were the first ones in the firing line also. And then what we will jointly do is to have a consultative meeting with the governor as well as the Minister of Land Reform in due course.
The Damara Kings Council has reportedly shown interest in the incident and is currently assessing the situation to try and find ways to support them.
Are you a CMS member? With HospiCash 100, you can get up to 100,000 Namibian dollars cover with a 30,000 limit per event from as little as 100 Namibian dollars a month. We understand that being in hospital can be stressful. That is why with HospiCash 100, you can cover your non-medical expenses by receiving cash payouts when you are in hospital, so you can recover stress-free. Interested? SMS your name and HospiCash to 555 and we will call you back.
Physician specialist at the Ministry of Health and Social Services at a recent World Health Organization Africa virtual media briefing on the challenges and progress the continent has made in terms of COVID-19 case management as well as the COVID-19 vaccine rollout in Africa revealed that consultations are ongoing to address shortages experienced in state hospitals for crucial medication for the treatment of blood clots in COVID-19 patients. Selma Poppy has this report.
Specialist physician Dr. Ismail Kashitai noted that the situation in South Africa has hampered Namibia's procurement of most of its medicinal goods. However, orders have been placed with suppliers for blood clotting medicines such as Klaxen.
To the other question as to whether there is actually any delay in some essential medication, such as, for instance, the anticoagulants in the form of Klaxen, if I can put it that way. There has been, we are aware of that, we've run out of that for a short period of around about 1 week, but there has been purchase orders being placed with suppliers to procure and purchase these medicines. The stock will be delivered soon. Obviously, what the WHO African region, regional director have actually said, Dr. Mwedi, is also affecting us, looking at the situation of the current riots now in South Africa, because Namibia is actually receiving a lot of their items, medicinal items from South Africa. So that will actually affect us in a way, but we are working on that. We have been having intense consultations with our minister and also our Minister of Foreign Affairs. We are working on trying to find solutions.
Further providing an overview on the country's case management, Dr. Kashitai added that as of the 12th July this year, the country has recorded over 108,000 confirmed cases and over 2,000 deaths, bringing the country's case fatality rate to 2%.
And currently the country is in the third wave, with the current peak recorded in June 2021, 4 times that of the second wave in December 2020, and 8 times that of the first wave in August 2020. Of the confirmed cases, 3,731 are healthcare workers, accounting for 4% of the total cases. The spike in the cases has resulted in over 500 hospitalized confirmed cases, with 20% in the intensive care units. Over 50% of the hospitalized cases are in Windhoek, the capital city of Namibia, which has the highest level of critical care expertise and serves as the main referral hub for most regions in the country. This has resulted in a very high bed occupancy rates beyond the capacity of the healthcare systems to cope.
According to the World Health Organization's Regional Director for Africa, case numbers are still relatively high in Africa, adding that at least 5 countries, including Namibia, are facing shortages of ICU beds.
Win free airtime with #LearnOn1. Share your comments on the lessons. WhatsApp your feedback, name and town to 081 200 6659. #LearnOn1. Invite learning in.
The private sector handed over 100 beds and mattresses to the Katutura State Hospital. This comes after the hospital was faced with a shortage of beds due to an increase of COVID-19 patients being admitted on a daily basis. Hendrina Canyola has more.
B2 Gold Namibia, Hangala Construction, Procon and many more companies in the private sector in collaboration with the Namibian Chambers of Commerce and Industry have come on board to assist government in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
Procon have been instrumental in the repair of these beds. They're not a large company, but they've dropped everything in order to make their fitters and boiler makers available, their workshop available to us. And they have really done an exceptional job of fixing these 100 beds together with the B2 Gold team. So thank you very much, Francois. I really appreciate all the work that you've gone to. It's absolutely fantastic. Hangala Construction as well, our partners in this, they've been absolutely wonderful working in lockstep with us. And of course my very own company, B2 Gold, We had several fitters up here and a foreman, and they were very involved in the repair of all the beds you see around you. And of course there are many more beds that we still have to repair, many more from this hospital that we have to look at. In fact, we're looking at them today. As I speak, we have our staff coming up from B2 Gold to work together with Hangala, with Kokivitz, to look at what we can do for the Ministry of Health and Social Services to repair more beds, not just the 100 that we have over here. Everything we're doing on behalf of the Ministry of Health and Social Services, on behalf of the people of Namibia, is done in the spirit of Ubuntu, in the spirit of togetherness in Namibia, as only Namibians can show the rest of the world. This makes me extremely proud. I think that there's no greater example of people standing together than what we're experiencing today.
Like Hangala, the executive chairman of Hangala Construction at the handover, said that Namibia should start thinking of constructing its own health facilities and produce products locally, referring to the looting incident in the neighboring South Africa, as Namibia imports most of its products from the country.
What we believe is worthy of note is the collaborative spirit between and amongst Namibian private companies. The fact that such companies are teaming up and pooling their financial, intellectual, and experience is not only commendable, but very important. They stood up to the call of duty at a moment when all forms of support are critically needed. We therefore need to look beyond COVID to how we should rejuvenate and revitalize the economy again. COVID, coupled with unrest in neighboring South Africa, is telling us that Namibia needs to build its domestic capacities in terms of production and provision of goods and services, including crucially those products that give the nation food security. I was so pleased to see the president the other day that the time has come for Namibia to be able to stand up and produce its own things. We therefore need to relook at our approach to agriculture, to water and soil utilization. Fellow Namibians, if Israel, which is an even greater desert country than Namibia, can produce enough food for its population and for export, why not Namibia? We thus need to modernize our agriculture industry, make it responsive to our needs, address the cost of inputs, and introduce large-scale mechanization. Extensive investments are also needed in the areas of agro-processing industry as well as manufacturing local essential commodities such as medical oxygen. Yes, medical oxygen. We cannot continue exporting some of these life-needed commodities from South Africa. Private sector has committed itself to support government with medical oxygen up to the end of September.
The acting Deputy Executive Director of the Ministry of Health and Social Services applauded the private sector for the initiative and urged all Namibian citizens to play their role in combating the COVID-19 pandemic by adhering to the rules and regulations put in place to fight the pandemic.
Since the start of this pandemic, we have seen a lot of support coming from our partners. And that support gave us a guarantee that we are in this pandemic together. It is not only the Ministry of Health and Social Services that is responsible to respond to this pandemic, but everybody is required to do that. And what we are witnessing today is a testimony from our partners that indeed we are in this together.
Both the private sector and the government of Namibia say they have learned a lesson of becoming self-sustainable and not depending on other countries for goods and services such as oxygen and beds, adding that this is a learning curve to start producing locally and finding solutions to the country's health challenges.
We can't wait to be together again and play until the sun comes up. But until then, let's stay safe.
In other leading stories, due to the current COVID-19 crisis and the immense strain that it is placing on the Namibian healthcare system, it is evident that there is a great and immediate need for assistance in combating the pandemic. Agra Limited, Woermann-Brock & Co. Inland and Woermann-Brock Coastal, in association with Elite Star Trading Africa, have joined forces to create a support initiative called Breathe Namibia. During the first week of the Breathe Namibia campaign, more than 50 oxygenators were delivered to Marienthal, Rehoboth, Gobabis, Ondangwa, Opuo, Chumep, Ocho, Grootfontein and Otavi. This initiative is a concerted effort from private companies and generous suppliers to assist local communities who are fighting the pandemic on the ground. Another 50 oxygenators will be delivered to COVID-19 community relief programs this week. And the lack of qualified teachers is one of the main challenges faced by the Namibian education system. For many years, the AGDS, Arbeits- und Fördergemeinschaft der Deutschen Schulvereine in Namibia, has therefore provided scholarships to Namibian students studying for a Bachelor of Education for primary and secondary school. In return, the students commit to teaching at an AGDS school for a few years after the completion of their studies. The AGDS is the umbrella organization for school associations, which represents schools in Namibia where German as a first language is taught. The Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany has supported AGDS in this quest to make this study course and profession more attractive for several years so far. This year, Mrs. Alan Goltz, Deputy Head of the German Embassy, and Hans-Joachim Böhmer, Chairman of the AGDS, signed a funding agreement to the amount of about 126,000 Namibia dollars to finance scholarships for 3 students this year.
We're now crossing over to Joseph Shifeni for today's edition of Business on One and Economic Indicators.
Welcome to Business on One. I'm Joseph Shifeni. Rental prices for the first quarter of 2021 shows that prices went from no contractions recorded last year to over 3% across the 1 to 3 bedroom segments in the sector by March 2021. This was released by the First National Bank Residential Rental Index. Although prices went down in most towns, affordability is still a challenge as the economy remains weak. Real estate is among the few in the services sector that carried the economy through during the first quarter of 2021 with a growth of 4.6% as the country battles the third COVID-19 wave. The worsening economic state is poised to keep the rental market in a coma, said the FNB market research manager Franz Usiku. Since March 2020, average rent has dropped from 7,465 Namibian dollars to 6,686 Namibian dollars, bringing the one-bedroom segment to 3,641 Namibian dollars, the two-bedroom to 6,687 Namibian dollars, and three-bedroom to 9,636 Namibian dollars. Contractions recorded in this regard were 0.8%, 2.8% and 1.0% respectively.
And what we're seeing really from the market is that the rental market has continued to deteriorate. And I think these fundamentals mirror very much what we're seeing in the general economy, a contraction of 6.5% seen in the first quarter, and general deterioration in demand as we have seen widespread job losses due to COVID-19 and the like. So generally fundamentals in the rental market have weakened. It means that affordability becomes an important consideration for consumers in general, but more specifically for tenants in this regard. So in a nutshell, it means that affordability it's an issue because there was a report released a couple of days ago which shows that Namibia is in a weak economic position than it was 5 years ago, and that in a nutshell just speaks to the relation level of affordability in general.
The more than three-bedroom segment showed growth in rental prices after registering 0.3%, bringing prices to 17,169 Namibian dollars as demand for multi-family renting units increased.
It's slightly cheaper, but in absolute terms, I think the rent remains highly elevated. But from a consumer side, it also means that they have now have got a much more bargaining power over landlords, meaning that they can now be able to negotiate for rent that is much more affordable. But again, from the landlord perspective, it means that they're having a very fierce competition in terms of chasing for quality tenants. Yeah, so you should understand where we're coming from. Before the advent of COVID-19, so the economy was already in a very weak position, and this has just exacerbated the issue. So demand fundamentals are likely to be weak in the short to medium term, but often at the end of this year and beyond, we are likely to see a mild improvement. But obviously, because of the low base effect, it doesn't really mean a substantial improvement in the standard of living in general, but we are likely to see some mild improvement going forward.
While Fish Bay tops the list when it comes to rental contractions this year, towns that also saw drops in prices include Oshakati, Swakopmund, Ondangwa, Okahanja, Hobabos, and the capital city, Windhoek. Towns that recorded a rise in the rental market are Tsumeb, Rundu, and Ongwediva. And that is all we have for you. Join us again next time, and don't forget to follow us on our social media pages.
This is my favorite gear, cause it speaks for me and all my brothers. Nivea Men Black and White Deo. With 5 times Deo action to protect you and your favorite gear from stains. Try Nivea's #1 anti-stain deodorant. Nivea Men, it starts with you.
Time now for Comments Corner, your daily dose of comments from the hottest social media pages. The Namibian Police Force Inspector General Sebastian Ndeitunga is upset that mourners at the funeral of the late Paramount Chief Vukwi Rukoro violated COVID-19 regulations. According to local reports, there were between 1,000 and 2,000 mourners in attendance. The Inspector General confirmed that they could not use the least amount of force to disperse the crowd because it was mostly made up of elderly people. Wilma says the damage is already done, noting that the police allowed it to happen in their presence and did nothing about it. Ya Davids wants to know why the burial only took place 30 days after the death. Thomas says it was a wise decision by the police not to act. Simon wants to know whether the elderly should violate the COVID-19 regulations as rubber bullets and tear gas are not being used on them. Augustinus noted that the Inspector General has failed by not maintaining order. While Simon says there were people from all regions at the funeral asking who issued them with permits. And that's all from Comments Corner. Be sure to post your comments on our social media pages for broadcast every day, only on Today on 1.
And welcome to the the show where we discuss trending topics amongst women across Africa. Girl, 7 years old. Do you know why you're here?
In 1997, I was filmed by an American news crew at the place I was being held. A shrine run by a priest dedicated to the worship of deities. I was labeled a Trikoshi, a wife of the gods, paying for a crime committed by a family member.
The purpose of sharing my story was to say, you know, you may have gone through something, a traumatic experience. You are still able to have life. You have life. You can live life. You can contribute to society, and that's what it should be about. It's not more. It's not really about like victimizing or because I honestly don't like watching it.
Time now for today's sports update with Castro Ulumbu.
Welcome to Sports on One. I'm your host Castro Ulumbu. Engaging with media is a key part of being a sport athlete. Thus, WIN Namibia founder Anthony Auchap has come up with the initiative to train and enhance Namibian athletes with the necessary knowledge and prepare athletes when engaging with the media. Today on One Sports Desk has more on this story.
Currently an HOD to a media school and a sports enthusiast, Anthony Auchap has noticed the lack of engagement between the media, sportswomen and or sportsmen. In an interview with Today on One Sports Desk, WIN Media founder Anthony William Auchap explains what his initiative is about.
Speaking is an important part of life. And then this also applies very much to athletics, sports. The world has changed so much that being an athlete automatically puts you in the spotlight, at the scrutiny of the entire world. So as a media practitioner myself, as well as a media trainer, I've now thought of the initiative where how do we go about enabling athletes? Media training for athletes, sports bodies, as well as coaches, across all kinds of sporting codes. So the issue here is that at this point in time, it's amazing to see the prowess and the achievements of our athletes all across the world. We help athletes with their moments in the media. Now what happens is that for the Olympic Games, the biggest sporting event, spectacle in the entire world, all media organizations will be there. Constant media interviews in your face, etc., all the time. And for athletes, what happens is that they are athletes. There are some people who have the capacity and the ability to speak confidently. But for most athletes, they might be too young, they might be too inexperienced, they might just be too busy exercising, training to focus on that aspect. So what we want to do through Win Media is to provide this capacity. And the initiative now is that calling on all the coaches, all the sports bodies that are sending athletes to the Olympic Games, saying the National Olympic Committee, the Namibian National Olympic Committee, all the stakeholders saying that, okay, here we are. We would like to add value to this process by training these athletes on media engagement, confidence, developing messages that are short and straight to the point. Also understand the media also is used as a tool for branding, for brand endorsement. So this moment that our athletes will have in the media spotlight, that it is used to their benefit.
According to Auchab, his main challenge currently is the public's mindset towards change, as well as understanding the role of athletes in the society.
It's new. It's new. Most of the time people actually, we have a way of doing things. So therefore what happens is that change, whether good, even if it's good, change takes some time to wrap our minds around it, to see the relevance of what this training can be. So that new perspective that we should have around these things, that is not always easily accepted as with any initiative. So some people will be questioning the initiative, also the credibility of the trainer. You say, oh, who is this person? So, but these are things that we are fully aware of. And then we know that with any initiative, it takes time. That's why we don't have a problem to start off small, step by step. But absolutely, it is absolutely important. And the challenges is also, you look at, as much as you would train somebody, you look at the environment also. All stakeholders understanding the role of the athlete in terms of life and issues. Athletes have become advocates. They speak on key matters in their society. They are role models. So it's not only about the media, we also focus on coaching these people how to speak in public. We feel the need is there. But it's of course always, it depends on them as athletes, as well as the coaching setup, however they feel, but we've availed it. So it's at their comfort, it's at their discretion to say that, okay, good, just to develop messages, just a key message, who are you, where do you come from, how do you feel about something, that kind of thing, But you must also understand that these people are now at the final point where they are mentally preparing themselves to focus on the races. But we also say, now, okay, let's complement that. So we've reached out to a couple of people, and we are waiting, and hopefully they will come back, and then we can assist with that.
The Namibia Athletes Commission and the Namibia Olympians Association also recently hosted an athletes workshop in order to explain the importance of marketing and handling the media. Win Media is currently taking bookings from interested athletes who would like to be trained on these important topics. And that is all we have for you tonight. Join us again tomorrow for Sports on One, and don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. Back to you, Isai.
Thank you, Castro, for the latest in sports. Now let's have a look at the weather forecast.
A look at the weather forecast. First, an advisory from the Windhoek Met Office. Very cold conditions with frost is expected in the south, central and eastern regions tomorrow and on Thursday. Small stock and crop farmers should take the necessary precautions. The Namibia interior partly cloudy and very cold to cold in the south with frost but mild in the Khomas and Omaheke regions, elsewhere sunny and warm. The coast partly cloudy and mild to warm and the wind moderate to fresh southerly to southwesterly. Now we look at minimum and maximum temperatures across the country and beyond.
We have come to the end of this evening's edition of Today on One. Catch a repeat at 9:30 this evening and the Omnibus Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Till next time, it's good night.
The International University of Management, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
We are IUM for life. We are IUM. I am a prisoner.
I like rhinos. I like them very much. Future here in this area is depending on the tourism. The future generation, they can see and they can benefit from their own resources. Animals like rhinos, elephants, the big five, you benefit from them and it must be respected. You are not feeding the rhinos, you are not giving them order, so it's a free business.
I don't know, cut it off.
I take two of my sons, which was little bit 5 years old. They were young guys. So they asked me questions. Why are we here? Why are we sleeping here? I told them this is our resources and this is our future. My first memory of going with my dad is that I learned new things. As I grow up as a man, I see an opportunity in it. So I decided to look for a job pertaining tourism. So that's when I was employed at Palamba. So I decided to go for tour guide studies. Because I grew up with the tourism industry, the wildlife, the rhinos and everything, to bring that experience to the tourist. You can see the hyena. The biggest change is I was employed, getting paid, and also I can now support my family.
It's a cultural thing. It's coming a long way. Even if you go to area like Treverfontein, the area was a lot of paintings. You will see rhino engravings on the rocks. That is an indication that the interaction between human, especially the local communities and wildlife, is dating back. That intimacy relationship is coming for a long time.
We are right here now at Palambach, and Palambach is one of the big lodges in the heart of the desert. And as you can see there is Jumbo standing behind me, which shows it's really a tourist area. We do have elephants, lions, but as you can see, the desert is the heart of the rhinos. This is the main breeding area of the rhinos, is what we found here in this desert.
It's the largest free-roaming population of black rhinos that you find outside national parks in the world. It's a population that communities in the northwest have taken responsibility themselves in managing this population with the structures that government has put in place, more specifically the establishment of conservancies.
These people, before independence, they took it upon themselves and decided that wildlife is our heritage, and through history we've been living with wildlife. And having wildlife in your area is like having a garden.
Because of all these animals, we've got the communities that benefit from all this wildlife, and it's like a triangle that fits into each other. And the communities looked after the wildlife doing their own thing, and the communities benefit.
So already there were this intergenerational relationship between mankind and wildlife, and that bond is what our people actually wanted to see it continuing.
Very few countries have the wildlife that Namibia has. What is also important is the policies that Namibia has put in place, which also involves communities to be engaged in the management of the wildlife species and also to benefit from the wildlife resources.
Turn conservation into a rural economy, turn conservation into endless opportunities that would actually cater for those young people that have nothing else to do.
If it was not for rhino economy and tourism in this area, it was really difficult for young people to get or find a job.
We are conservation engineers. We make conservation work in an unfenced area, and through that, we want to turn the wildlife into the rural economy that will benefit the rural communities.
So we can see now wildlife is doing very well, the lodges are doing well, and the community is also benefiting. So it takes all three together.
Devastating hit over coronavirus fears. Airline industry is facing its biggest threat to travel since 9/11.
Since March, when COVID-19 hit Namibia, things actually become very difficult. In the first place, all the lodges closed down because of COVID-19. With us, say the Rhino Trust, we had some donors cutting on their funding. And then we had, in the same time, a poaching case of 2 rhinos that was poached. We had less boots on the ground, and poachers could actually see. Now it's all changed to go in and do something. So COVID-19 was tough on all of us. Ginger Morning, who is one of our trustees, actually came up with the idea of, why don't we ask you to go to buy some gold for us and make gold bars, and then we sell them for rhino conservation.
I was fortunate enough to have a chance to have lunch with Clive Johnson, the CEO of B2 Gold in Vancouver, Canada. And I looked at Clive and I said, we've got rhinos, you've got gold, let's do something. Let's create a coin or a medallion or a bar using your resource to create a sustainable source of funding for rhino conservation for the future.
There was it. The gold was bought, the bars was made, and I think it was 31st of January that we launched the bars in Windhoek. And suddenly one morning I had an email from my office, from my finance person, saying, these people don't have salaries. So I said, oh, what now? So I picked up my phone and I phoned Mark Daw. I said, Mark, I've got this problem. He said, but we've got a fund already ready for you. You just have to apply, put a proposal in.
1,000 ounces of gold can make an enormous difference to the livelihoods of the communities that live up there. We are, in essence, providing income and providing a livelihood to the communities. In the absence of tourism, especially now with COVID-19, even prior to that, when we had such a bad drought, the communities became even more dependent on the natural economy.
The idea is to make this a fund that will last for the next 25, 30 years, or even longer. and a portion of that will be distributed immediately as needed. And in this case, the COVID-19 crisis necessitated us to distribute funds to pay salaries to help people in the field.
The proceeds of the sales from the gold bars will be going towards responsible NGOs, and we've identified Save the Rhino Trust as the key NGO. And IRDNC, one of the first organizations that was in the Northwest, integrated rural development and nature conservation, so that ultimately the funds go to the communities and various aspects of their war on poaching.
To be able to support those hardworking men and women that are always in the front line between the poachers and the rhinos.
If it was not for B2 Gold and the golden bars, I think by now we should have been in big trouble.
By extracting the gold, you reinvest it in other renewable resources.
The gold that's coming out from the ground is actually protecting the wildlife that's walking on the ground, which is a very good symbol for the others.
I wish this was my bar. This is the 500 gram gold bar. So you'll see on this side you've got the Etindeka Mountains and you've got the mother rhino with her calf. And then on the reverse side we've got the serial number, you've got the Rand Refinery stamp, which is very important. Anywhere in the world people will recognize the stamp and they will know that this bar contains 99.99% gold.
It is gorgeous.
We wanted to make a biggest contribution. And at Ballowwood we see that as a way of giving back to the community.
Okay, so there you'll see the 500 gram bar.
Very special.
Feel the weight. It's incredible.
This opportunity which presented itself is absolutely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
We're privileged to have this.
This is just absolutely gorgeous, and I think this showcase really what the project is all about.
It's from 24-karat Namibian gold.
I'm looking at these rhinos is put there like Miss World photogenic, I would say.
There are only 1,000 of these gold bars, rhino gold bars, in circulation.
As far as I'm aware, it's the largest single donation of any corporate to the conservation of biodiversity anywhere in Africa.
Therefore, we so much appreciate and would want to continue as a government to work with B2 Gold.
And the fact that it's happening here in Namibia is something that we can all be extremely proud about and very grateful to B2 Gold.
Thanks to having this literal pot of gold through the funding for the Rhino Gold Bar, we're able to step in now and make sure that those trackers are supported, and so are their families and their communities.
We make sure that people sustain their jobs going forward, and who doesn't want gold?
And the B2 Gold Rhino Gold Bar has come in at a really critical time now, particularly with tourism being closed off and those forms of revenue not coming in.
To say we have the biggest rhino population or black rhino population in the world, let it be for the rest of our lives. And it's that heritage that we have, it's our resource that we can all look after and protect.
It's our heritage. And it's also good that other people like B2 Gold are also seeing it that way.
It's actually a very nice link between the investor that buys this gold bar, the rhino tracker in the northwest of Namibia, and the black rhinos. It's an intergenerational thing. The rhino trackers teach their children how to track rhinos, their children get taught, and so it flows down.
This is something that I want my children to have, and that we leave a little bit of a B2 Gold legacy. And if I can be part of that as part of my family, I'd be very proud.
It can also become an inheritance for the generations of my own clan. My children, my grandchildren.
If we can bring that passion over to future generations and to hand that over to my children, and I hope that that same passion for conservation gets migrated over to my kids.
And what we've done together is create a sustainable source of funding that should outlive all of us.
You know, I think as far as B2 Gold is concerned, we couldn't have chosen a better target in which to put our efforts as far as the environmental and conservation pillar is concerned. And I want to stress there, that the money that's going towards environment and conservation is actually going towards the people.
Rhino is for all of us, whether you are in Canada, whether you are in Vancouver, whether you are in the US. If you really want to see conservation at play with rural communities, I therefore humbly request each and everyone to join us on our Rhino tour and have a wonderful experience. This is what keeps rhinos on this planet.
I've done rhino trekking experience. It was just amazing walking in that landscape of the Kunene. And as we followed them, we could now find rhinos with the calf. We got the closest distance we could.
It's a warning sign.
And it was just amazing and lovely, something to experience that Namibia can offer. It's something that you have to do in your life.
COVID-19 affects people very differently. Many people show no symptoms at all, but some are hospitalised for weeks. So what does the disease do to your body? The coronavirus enters through the mouth, nose or eyes. It then usually attaches itself to cells lining the nose, throat, airways or lungs. It can turn these cells into factories that multiply and spread the virus. For the majority, a fever, cough and breathlessness are as bad as it gets. But the virus can damage the small blood vessels lining the lungs and initiate clotting. The alveoli are tiny air sacs where oxygen goes into the blood. If they become inflamed, it can trigger pneumonia. Seriously ill patients need to be given oxygen as the lungs fill with fluid and debris.
I legit couldn't breathe. My oximeter was measuring under 88% oxygen levels, which is very dangerous. And the only time I ever thought my life was in danger was at that point.
COVID-19 doesn't just affect the lungs. It can also disrupt the immune system, which is used by the body to fight illnesses. Cytokines are part of the immune system that find and signal infections. For some people with severe COVID-19, this system can go into overdrive. If too many cytokines build up, it can cause an overreaction that damages healthy cells. This is called a cytokine storm for the most severe cases. COVID-19 can lead to seizures or even a coma. It can also cause brain problems that lead to strokes. The immune system overreacting can cause clots that stop the blood supply to parts of the brain. Brain inflammation, psychosis and dementia-like symptoms can also affect seriously ill patients. The average length of the illness is 14 days, but many people have symptoms for much longer. Breathing problems and post-viral fatigue last for months in some cases.
I cannot walk for long simply because I will feel a little bit short of breath and I feel the need to sit down. And that's something that has never happened to me before.
Some of the people who are most likely to develop severe symptoms are older adults and those with underlying health conditions. It's not fully known how anyone will react to COVID-19 until they get it. So it's important for everyone to follow health guidance. What precautions are you taking to stay safe?
beautiful souls. This is Nikita Winkler, and I am here to share easy tools for stretching that you can do just about anywhere. This is a demonstration, so what's most important is that you take the time in each position that your body needs to release its tension. In this session, we will stretch the hips. What you'll need are yoga blocks or books, thick books, or pillows, especially if you have tight hips. You can do this on a mat, on the floor, on a blanket, or even in your bed. Let's get started. So we're going to start on the floor with the soles of our feet together. I'm going to grab around the feet. This is a butterfly position. So in order to warm up the hips, I'm just going to flap the butterfly wings. And again, take your time. I'm going to lean forward. And here, again, if the hips are too tight, you can place your blocks, books, or pillows underneath. You might even feel a stretch in the back here. From this position, I'm going to take one arm right behind me, not too far from my body. The other arm, inhale, exhale, press the hip open. And come back to center. Change. One arm right behind me to lengthen the spine, the other hand on the knee. Inhale, exhale, press the hip open. And back to center. Now we're going to lie down on the floor. And first, before I get started, I have to make sure that my body, my spine is in alignment. I'm going to just open up the neck area. And you can spend as much time as you need here, allowing the force of gravity to weigh on the legs to open up the hips. You can place your blocks, books, or pillows underneath the knees. And gradually, you can take the feet even further down and spend enough time in each position. From here, we're going to go into an internal hip rotation. I'm going to spread my feet to the side, lean the knees inwards. If you have a little bit more flexibility, you don't really feel the stretch, just take your feet even further apart to deepen this internal rotation stretch in your hips. From here, I'm just going to place my feet, and without repositioning the feet, I'm going to take my arms to the side, and then I'm just going to rock my legs side to side, keeping the upper body facing up, shoulders down. And then I'm going to stop on one side, take the lower leg over the upper to add weight to deepen the stretch. Release the leg and switch. Other side, lower over the upper. And back to center. Last part, I'm going to spread my legs as wide open as I can, and I'm going to just row the boat. So what's important here is that the knees don't lift off the floor. Make sure you row both sides. Keep the knees and both bum cheeks on the floor. Alternatively, you can just lean forward. You can hang out on the pillow. Take your time on the blocks or on your books. And that is it. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to breathe into your stretches, and happy stretching.
Win free airtime with One Africa TV. Share your comments on the channel. WhatsApp your feedback, name and town to 081 200 6659. One Africa TV. It just gets better.